to the Burke County Board of Commissioners regular meeting for Tuesday, June the 16th, 2020. I'm not going to say anything about COVID. I've had enough. We're moving on to welcome everybody that's here, doing a roll call. Madam Clerk, have you heard anything from Commissioner Taylor?
I have not, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So Commissioner Abley is here, Commissioner Britton is here, Commissioner Mulway, and myself. I do declare a quorum is present. Ladies and gentlemen, if you didn't happen to bring your phones with you or anything, if you would silence those at this time for me, I would appreciate that. And as you come forward to speak before us tonight, if you'll activate the microphones, the button on the right will activate a little red button on top and it will be ready to go. With us tonight is Pastor Ed Stevenson from Arnie's Fairview United Methodist Church, who will be giving our invocation again. And then after that, our County Attorney J.R. Simpson will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you'll rise with me, Pastor Ed, if you'll come up, sir.
God of us all, we come before you this evening making our plea that you continue to leave sanity here. One of the few places left, Lord, that we do expect and adhere to sanity. Father, in anything that comes before this board or a church board or even a family, there will be differences of opinion. Father, remind us that that's all that it is. We still love each other. We're still citizens of one beautiful and wonderful county. We ask, Lord, that you bless these commissioners, give them your wisdom, and give all of us a double dose of your grace. Help us to remember, Lord, that we are in a most beautiful place that you have created for mankind, and we appreciate that. But now, Lord, we just ask that in spite of ourselves, that you continue to watch over us and this county, and that again, in spite of ourselves, Lord, that you have your will in our county and in each one of our lives. We make this plea and we offer our prayer in the most precious name we know, that of your Son, our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. J.R.
Please repeat with me the words of the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, J.R. All right, gentlemen, moving on to item number 4. Madam Clerk, make note that Commissioner Taylor is present. Is the approval of the agenda. Gentlemen, you've had the agenda in front of you for several days, so at this time we'll entertain a motion to approve.
So,
Okay, we've heard Wayne's motion. All in favor signify by raising of the right hands. Madam Clerk, that'll be 5-0. Also in front of you tonight are the minutes from the January 21st, 2020 regular meeting, the January 30th, 2020 recess meeting, and the February 4th, 2020 pre-agenda meeting. This time the chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve all 3 sets of meeting minutes.
All right, gentlemen, you've heard the Vice Chair's motion. All in favor signify by raising of the right hand. Madam Clerk, that will be 5-0. Moving on to item number 6, we'll move into our presentations. The first one being the Pet of the Month, and that will be presented by Caitlin Settlemeyer, our Animal Services Director. Caitlin.
Hey, so it's good to be back in here. So I'll start. This past weekend we did have a kitten palooza that was mentioned at our pre-agenda meeting. It was fantastic. We had a huge turnout, ended up doing 60 adoptions during those 2 days. So we're really excited about that. But we'll go ahead and present our Pets of the Month. Our dog is going to be Mr. Gunner. Gunner came to us. He sustained a pretty significant injury. He was actually shot 2 times, once in the shoulder and once in the side. So he went through pretty extensive treatment. So Gunner is now all healed up. He has 1 recheck left. So this was him during his little healing process. He had a lot going on. He did require an amputation of that front leg. But he is the absolute sweetest dog. He's about an 8-month-old pit lab mix. He loves children. So we can go to the next slide. This is little Gunner in his foster home. He is all healed up, ready to go. He's ready to find his forever family. He is just a little hesitant around men. So as you can imagine, he went through a traumatic event. So, but he absolutely loves children, loves women. So he is ready to find his forever home. We do have a video of him now that he is up and ready to go. This is him playing with one of his foster brothers in his home. So he is getting around just fine. So if anybody's interested in adopting Mr. Gunner, please let us know. Our next, we do have our cat of the month. This is going to be Miss Pearl. Pearl's been with us about 2 weeks now. She is a darling little cat. She came in with a bunch of kittens, of course, and she's finished nursing them. She constantly just makes biscuits. Anytime you pick her up, she's making biscuits. Every time she's walking anywhere. So she's a really sweet cat, and she would make someone a great little house pet. So those are our pets of the month.
Thank you so kindly, and I'm just impressed with Gunner running around on 3 legs.
I know, he gets around great.
And also, you have the admiration of this board for the Kitten Palooza, where you adopted out 60 animals. That's just absolutely unreal, I think. Do you know how many people came by during the Palooza?
We should have kept count. I think out of all of that, we only had 3 or 4 families that did not adopt something from us. So.
Okay. Gentlemen, any questions or comments?
Caitlin, how many dogs? I know at one point when we met, you had no adoptable dogs because they were all adopted.
Yeah, we had all of our dogs adopted. As of right now, we have, I think, 6 dogs that are available for adoption in the shelter. So we have a couple right now. Most of ours are still in foster care because a lot of people are still home from work, and they really enjoy fostering. It's super rewarding for anyone who is interested. If you're bored at home, you want to, take on that task, it's really great to be able to do that.
Right. Anything else, gentlemen? Well, hearing nothing, thank you, and let me again encourage all the citizens of Burke County to please go by the Animal Services Center and make an adoption. We do appreciate that. All right, moving on to item number 7 in our scheduled public hearings. This first one will be from Blue Ridge Healthcare. This will be concerning a resolution approving the issuance of not to exceed $125 million of tax-exempt bonds to be issued by the Public Finance Authority to finance and refinance certain costs of various projects on behalf of Blue Ridge Healthcare. And with us tonight is Tom Muir Sr., Vice President in Corporate Services and General Counsel for Carolinas Healthcare. So I'll turn it over to you, Tom.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Burke County citizens, this is an exciting time for our community. Blue Ridge Healthcare is prepared to seek the opportunity to refinance our bond structure in an effort to reinvest back into this community. We have declared plans to make capital improvements both on our Valdez as well as our Morganton campuses. As you know, Blue Ridge Healthcare is the second largest employer in Burke County next to the county or the state of North Carolina. And so we see it as really our fiduciary responsibility as that employer, as that safety net for healthcare in our community to reinvest in our county. And so tonight with me I have Alice Adams, who is our outside counsel, who will do a presentation to you regarding the resolution that we're going to ask for you to approve tonight. Please, Alice.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you for entertaining this on behalf of Blue Ridge. As Tom said, my name is Alice Adams. I'm an attorney at Robinson Bradshaw in Charlotte, and we are serving as bond counsel and outside counsel to Blue Ridge. I think y'all have heard a little bit about this. Obviously refinancing some existing debt, which the point of that is to save them money, obviously, and then some new money to invest in both campuses, Morganton and Valdez. They are going through the Public Finance Authority in Wisconsin to take advantage of the tax-exempt bonds, and because they want to do a tax-exempt bond deal, they have to follow the federal tax rules. We lovingly refer to those as the TEFRA rules, which require this public hearing to give anybody a chance to speak about the issuance of the bonds. So while Burke County is required under the tax code to approve the issuance of the bonds. Perhaps the most important thing in the resolution is that Burke County has absolutely no responsibility whatsoever for the payment of the debt incurred by the bonds. That is why we're here. Happy to answer any questions about what Blue Ridge is doing or why y'all are being asked to approve it, but that's pretty much it.
All right, gentlemen, you've heard the presentation. Questions from anyone?
Mr. Chairman, I just had a couple of general questions just out of personal interest myself. And I just wanted to know, did you have a percentage of how much was refinancing? And then second, how much was designated for improvements?
Yes, sir. About 55 million is for the new improvements. And it's about little over 60 million of refundings.
Okay.
So
And the third question was just I don't know if it's by law where you originate out of, whatever, but on page, I think it's page 67, where we refer to these bonds, et cetera, authority for the state of Wisconsin. I believe it's mentioned 3 times in that one paragraph that the state of Wisconsin and we're the state of North Carolina.
Right.
So my question is that, a lot of times you go to court, if the paperwork ain't filed right, it don't get to the starting point, let alone anywhere else. So I guess the question is that correct? I mean, it's Counselor, JR, did you review that? Is that correct in this term, that it is Wisconsin that will have the control and ruling factor in this agreement?
You're talking about the governing law of one of the actual bond documents?
I'm sorry, I did not hear you.
I'm sorry. Which, you're talking about whether Wisconsin law governs the actual bond document agreement, or is there something, the Public Finance Authority is a Wisconsin entity, so that's why there's references to Wisconsin law. They are formed, the conduit issuer of the bonds is formed under Wisconsin law.
Commissioner Maynard Taylor, we chose to go to Wisconsin to borrow these dollars. Frankly, had we borrowed them from North Carolina, North Carolina requires that we have guaranteed fixed contracts in place, and in order to do that, it would take us about 18 months to secure those construction contracts. And as you well know, the Commission well knows, the bond market right now is at historic low rates, interest rates. And so by us going to Wisconsin to borrow these dollars, we will save the county's healthcare system about $18 million over the course of the repayment. We see that as a good stewardship for this community, and therefore that's why we're going to the state of Wisconsin to borrow these dollars.
I recognize the amount of money and the huge amount of savings, but I just want to make sure that it was legally correct the way. But obviously, if you're borrowing from the state of Wisconsin, it probably is correct. But
yes, sir.
I've been into those situations where because it was just filed and had the wrong state in it, they didn't even threw it out. So
that's right.
Thanks for the answers.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? All right, this time I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to the Blue Ridge of borrowing of monies and refinancing? Hearing and seeing none, at this time I will close the public hearing, and Chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I think it's great to save a lot of money, especially when it's that much money, so I'll make the motion to adopt Resolution 2020-16, which is approving the issuing of not to exceed $125 million in tax-exempt bonds to be issued by the Public Finance Authority and finance and refinance certain costs of various projects on behalf of the Blue Ridge Healthcare System Incorporated.
Thank you, Commissioner Taylor. Gentlemen, you've heard the motion. All in favor signify by raising of the right hands. Madam Clerk, that will be 5-0. All right, thank you, sir.
very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Moving on to our next item will be adoption of the fiscal year 2021 budget and public hearing presented by Brian Steen, County Manager. Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, as you are aware, we had a budget retreat. Things were discussed. I developed, with the assistance of the finance officer and other county staff, a recommended budget that was presented back in May. The board, we've had 3 budget workshops since then, and the changes that were requested by the board were incorporated into the budget that you have available for approval tonight, so you choose. And the tax rate remains the same as the past year, 69.5 cents.
All right, gentlemen, you heard Brian's presentation. Questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, I just, I don't want to beat this horse to death, but looking again at the cost of the new jail, it seems to me we could have done something that this board hasn't done in years and years. That would have been drop the tax rate to our citizens. It probably doesn't mean a lot to a lot of our citizens, but I'm telling you, the people that are on fixed income, that means a lot to them, the pennies that can be saved. But the other thing, we got the old jail sitting vacant, and we've been told that we got various entities looking at that jail for different things. And we tell them what a great physical plan it is and what it is. But apparently it wasn't good enough for our prisoners here in Burke County. It may be good for people that we're trying to present this building to, but it doesn't seem to be the great thing that for our prisoners. And I thought it was a fine facility for our prisoners. However, I'm not going to beat that horse to death. I just wanted to make those comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, the overall look at the budget is probably a little better this year than it was last year. I had several presentations and comments and bunches of questions to ask about the budget, but did not get the information requested to be precise enough with the questions that we could probably get some precept into it. A couple of things that I've always asked for at the end of 1 year is the amount of money that's not reoccurring in the budget for the next year. And we have had those figures over $4 million. And I wrote you an email today because I didn't think I was going to be able to be here. But just one example of that, if you've paid off and you're not renewed and that bill has ended $4 million last year, you start a budget $4 million less than you were last year. And we continue to add the 3 and 4 and 5 million on top of the 4, and we've been boosting our budget $5 and $6 million. But you know, I've had a lot of pain in the last 2 weeks, almost unbearable pain. But it pains me even more when you request public information, and that we can't change that information. Looking to summarize and to gather where we're going, and to just see what kind of a big shock wave it's going to take to correct the overspending of Burke County. And in 5 years, we have doubled the amount of money in a couple of categories for Burke County. But my point to all this is simply this. I never received more than 5% of the information I requested. So 95% was not. And I left my notes because, again, I didn't put them in my package. I didn't think I was coming. But how could you expect anyone to vote for a budget when 95% of the questions and information requested was not given? I don't have a lot of big potholes in this budget. But it's still, in my opinion, we can't even get a fund balance number. We're voting for an incomplete and a misunderstanding budget. How can you expect somebody to vote for that? Why would you vote for that? Being stewardship of the county, I echo with Wayne, it breaks my heart every year, because when we went up on that big tax increase, we promised when the taxes got back up and the sales tax got back to the level they were, that we would reduce those taxes. We've had opportunity a couple of times to do it, but instead we chose to tax and spend. And we wouldn't have lost anything in service or any of those categories. I still have those questions. I still would like to get them answered. And the budget across the board, state, federal government, county, you know who pays all those taxes? It comes out of the same kitty. You know whose it is? It's yours. And if we sit back and we do things and overspend and then expect the federal government or state government to bail us out, then they got to go up on taxes. And folks, citizens pays 100% of all those overspent and unnecessary dollars. I'll shut up for now. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Any other comments? All right, this time I'll open a public hearing to receive comments from citizens regarding the 2021 budget. Seeing and hearing no one to speak, I will close the public hearing. Gentlemen, there are three motions to be made tonight, and the chair will entertain motions.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt fiscal year 2021 budget ordinance number 2020-02 as presented, to approve a memorandum of agreement between Burke County and the Burke County Board of Education for fiscal year 2021, to authorize the county manager to execute contracts with all nonprofit agencies that receive funding in the fiscal year 2021 budget in accordance with the North Carolina General Statute 153A-449 and NCGS 159-40.
All right, gentlemen, you've heard Jeff's motion. All of those in favor signify by raising their right hands. All of those opposed. Madam Clerk, that will be 3-2. All right, thank you, gentlemen. Moving on to item number 8 is informal public comments. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chairman, we have one person in the audience to speak, and then I have comments that I received via email to read. And at this time, I would call Mr. Bryant Lindsay.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to read you a letter that the News Herald was kind enough to publish on Monday. I hope it'll be 3 minutes or not more, but the town of Rutherford College badly needs direct help from the Burke County Commission that the Commission almost certainly will not be able to give, in my opinion, if they vote for the first item on the consent agenda this Tuesday at 6 p.m. If the Burke County Commission approves Resolution 2020-18 without modification, the Commission will be giving the Burke County Board of Education irrevocable permission to do a, quote, public sale of all 4 properties comprising the old Rutherford College Elementary School campus, and to apply all the proceeds from the sale to their own capital budget, presumably None of these proceeds could or would be spent in the town of Rutherford College, and presumably none of the 4 properties could or would be gifted or leased by the Board of Education to the town of Rutherford College if the resolution is approved unchanged. After all, the Board of Education is obligated to spend all of its capital budget on schools and in locations where it has not, quote, abandoned all of its facilities. And I don't use the term abandoned in a pejorative sense. There is a far better way to move forward for the Burke County Commission and the town of Rutherford College, I think, which is allowed and maybe even encouraged under North Carolina state statutes 115C, 518, etc., and other state statutes. The Burke County Commission may agree instead to receive 1 or more of the 4 Rutherford College properties from the Board of Education. The Commission could then, for example, donate or lease one of the properties, RCES parcel number 4, to the town of Rutherford College. I understand the town desires that parcel for parkland, and the Commission could direct some or all of the proceeds from its own sales of RCES parcels 1 through 3 back to the town of Rutherford College to mitigate the substantial damage to the town which has been occasioned by the loss of Rutherford College Elementary School. The statutory language of most direct relevance is this, quote, the Board of Education shall offer the property, in this case each of the 4 RCES parcels, to the Board of Commissioners at a fair market price or at a price negotiated between the 2 boards. And I understand there may be places in the state where boards have negotiated $1 for exchanges of properties like that. So if both boards are willing to negotiate openly, they should and might be able to reach an agreement within a month or so which conveys the properties to the Burke County Commission in a way that can be optimally constructive for the town of Rutherford College. I thank you for your time, and I appreciate you hearing me tonight. No matter how you decide, you have my support, and I know you will continue to watch this interest and to work with all of the parties that have an interest in it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This is from Shandy Denton Gossett. She is President and District Lieutenant Governor, Chesterfield Ruatan Club on Bristol Creek Avenue in Morganton. And it reads, as a longtime resident of the Chesterfield community, I have observed firsthand how much closing the school has impacted us as a whole. Our school was the center of our community, and without it, we've gone downhill in Chesterfield, a long way downhill. That's over now, and we realize the school isn't coming back, and we also know that the Board of Education will not be utilizing any buildings anywhere in the Chesterfield community. We are not faulting them. They did what they had to do with the children's best interests at heart. The community and I are reaching out for help from the Burke County Commission, since clearly they are really the only part of government that can help us now that the Chesterfield Elementary is gone. The Burke County Commission is the only government we have left. I'm Shandy Denton Gossett, the president of Chesterfield Ruatan Club. We're located at 2126 Pax Hill Road, just across from Chesterfield Elementary School. Our organization owns our building with about 3.1 acres and has worked closely with the school nearly 50 years. The school was a big asset to our club in the fact that it allowed us to assist the community where help was needed. If we had time to ask our Ruatan board, I think they might like for the Burke County Commission to take over the Chesterfield Elementary School property from the Burke County Board of Education one way or another. It is of the utmost importance to make sure that if some or all of it needs to be sold, it's done by the County Commission in a way that helps benefit the Chesterfield community. If part of the Chesterfield Elementary School building can be saved, that would be fine, but if all the property needs to be sold and even torn down, then as much as possible of the money from selling it should come back to the Chesterfield community. We need to try to make up for losing our school, and only the County Commission can help us with this, not the school board. With that being said, we hope the County Commission will vote not to allow the school board to sell the Chesterfield Elementary School. Instead, we hope the county commission will take over the property. By the way, our Ruatan Club may be able to assist by mowing some grass at the property and watching over it for a while. We would be delighted to have one or more community meetings by the county commission at our club for everyone to talk about this. They might even get a good story or two out of visiting with us. Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That will end our informal public comments for tonight. Moving into item number 9 is our consent agenda. Will be presented by County Manager Brian Steen. Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, you have 9 items on the consent agenda. The first is BOC resolution regarding surplus real property. Number 2, clerk, appointment to Western Piedmont Community College Board of Trustees. Number 3, county manager, resolution authorizing lease amendment of real property. Item 4, finance, FY 20-21 general liability workers' comp insurance renewal. Item 5, health department, child protection / child fatality teams, calendar year 2019 report. Item 6, JCPC, removals, reappointments, and appointments to the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. Item 7, PBHM, Partners Behavioral Health Management Mental Health Report for period ending March 31st, 2020. Item 8, Tax Department Tax Collections Report for May 2020. And item 9, Tax Department Release Refund Report for May 2020. That concludes your consent agenda.
Thank you, Brian. Gentlemen, you've heard the consent agenda report. At this time, Chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to apologize for coming in a few minutes late because I should have handled this at the beginning of the meeting. But I'd like to make the motion. The only way I can do it now is to make the motion that we approve items 2 through 9, removing 1. I received 4 or 5 calls the last 2 days and some visits. And some of the people at these schools would like the opportunity to have a meeting with either the school board or this board to discuss some of the property and how it could benefit somebody else. And I explained to them that our only position in this is to either accept or deny that the county was not interested in it, and that we would obviously be doing it for the benefit of the citizens and people who have so much love for the community that they're in, and to see if they can get some interest from either businesses or whatever to use it. One of them, I know you're aware of it, it was in your information, was thinking about Rutherford College that might use part of the property for a park, et cetera, et cetera. And I have no, the only thing that I am trying to do is give them 60, 90 days, and I wouldn't care if this board, matter of fact, would probably recommend that this board have a special public hearing on that public property. It's a lot of it, and just see what kind of interest there is. They understand that I can only make a request, and that's my request in the way of a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I've had quite a few calls on this issue too, and I feel strongly about pulling that off for a little study.
Gerald, will you please give us the rule for removing this from the consent item agenda?
Mr. Chairman, the rule is that it takes a vote of the commission to pull a consent agenda item off the consent agenda. And so I understand that Mr. Taylor's motion is to pass items 2 through 9 and withdraw item 1 until the next meeting, or I'm not sure how.
They had requested or recommended, they thought 60 days would be enough, but mainly they want time enough to have a meeting with the school board and with this board if it's possible. And I think that's a meaningful request and easy to
deliver.
So the motion would be to pull item 1 and to approve items 2 through 9. And Mr. Taylor has made that motion, so a yay vote would remove item 1 and pass 2 through 9, and a nay vote would not, would end up with the consent items still there for a motion to remove them all or to pass them all.
JR, would that motion not also need to include what the disposition of item 1 would be? As I recall, we've already moved this item one time. It was on the agenda last month, and I think I was the one that suggested we look into it further, and I think we did that. And the school board is asking us to make a move here, but so does it need to go to decision, or does it need to just be removed, and then with 60 days to let the school board have more time? I'm not sure what can happen here, because this information's been out there. The school board could have already met with, and in fact, I suspect have already met with folks who might have interest in some of this property, and they want to do that. So I'm not sure this board continuing to be here is exactly the right answer. I don't know that I have a problem with delaying it another 60 days, but that means the school board needs to, meet with whoever.
Perhaps Commissioner Taylor could clarify what steps he would like taken concerning item 1 on the consent agenda rather than just taking it off. Would it be taking it off to a date future, Mr. Taylor, or just moving it to decision, or the clerk's going to need to know under your motion what to do with this item that the school board has asked the county to approve.
I think that, Mr. Chairman, Jeff is correct that we removed it one time. The thing here is that most people do not know what's coming on this board till it's printed or it's in the paper. And it gives them ample time and they have lost a lot by losing those schools. And they would like to work with, as if they can come up with some manufacturing plants or whatever they want to do with the cities, to see if they can retain at least part of the property and buy it, whatever, and still keep their community viable. I think that's more important than a few dollars quicker. And that's the reason I present this. And it just makes sense to give those people an opportunity to enhance their community without damaging even more.
So, Mr. Chair, so I'm trying to understand. So you want to remove number 1, vote on approve 2 through 9, but you're wanting number 1 to be removed and decided at a future date, not for an item decision tonight. We're just talking about moving it to a future date because you're just wanting to give the citizens more time. Do we need to give a specific date?
I think that would be yes, you do.
Whether it's 30 days or 60 days. I mean, it's Mr. Taylor's motion, but I just wanted clarity to know what we're voting on.
Well, if we're not moving it to decision, we need to know a date that it will come up for reconsideration.
Excuse me, JR. That is not my request. That's their 60 days, and evidently they have some things in mind they can get accomplished in 60 days. It's just a request.
May I ask you a question, Commissioner Taylor? The phone calls that you receive from the citizens, can they not do the same thing with the school board and get the same process they want to do?
I understand they have been talking to the school board. To answer your question, I don't live with them, so I can just tell you what they requested. And but I think it's a small request and could turn out really big and good for those communities. We, as good stewards, I think we owe them the opportunity to do it. And if we're given the opportunity and nothing happens, we have delivered as a board.
Okay, the motion before us is to vote on items 2 through 9, remove item 1 and postpone it for 60 days.
That's the way I understand it.
Does Commissioner Taylor need to repeat his motion, or is that okay if I said it that way?
I think that's it, subject to what the clerk thinks here.
Madam Clerk?
Do you think we could just phrase it, put it on the August agenda?
Madam Clerk, if it's okay with the commissioners, we'll rephrase it to put on the August agenda. Is that okay, gentlemen?
That's good.
For item number 1. Okay, the motion before you is to approve items number 2 through 9, and item number 1 will be on the August agenda. Any questions on that motion? All right. With that said, all in favor, signify by raising the right hands. Madam Clerk, that'll be 5-0. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thank you, gentlemen, for that consideration.
Moving on to item number 10, as a matter of urgency from the city of Morganton, because of some paperwork that has to be completed, we placed a placeholder on tonight's agenda for the historic courthouse square, and at this time I will turn that over to J.R. Simpson, County Attorney. J.R.?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This matter began when Sharon Jablonski contacted the county manager to inform him that Morganton would be doing soil borings on the part of the courthouse square that Morganton leases from Burke County. Manager questioned their authority to do that under the lease, as did I, and it was our opinion that only commissioners could approve any changes to the courthouse square property that would result in permanent fixtures being added to that square. We determined eventually that that Morganton was unsure itself if any buildings would end up being on the part of the courthouse square property that they lease from the county. We determined that the building that they're talking about, an amphitheater, would not be on the courthouse square property, but that it did include a set of steps to be built beside the amphitheater, which would be on the property that Morganton leases from the county. There would also be grading work done on the courthouse square property, removal of trees, and relocating or replacing sidewalks on the county property. We asked for and received a meeting with Morganton officials on the property on June 8th, where they showed us on the ground where things would be located. And it appears that the amphitheater will not be on our property, but the stairs will, and changes to the landscape, to the trees, and to the sidewalks would be. They also let us know that something else we hadn't heard before was that they wanted to make substantial repairs to the rock wall that surrounds the courthouse square property, which under the terms of the original lease, if such repairs exceeded $5,000, the county would be responsible for half of that. And they estimated for us at that time that the cost to repair the rock wall would be $20,000, of which the county would be responsible for half. Morganton's attorney, Louis Vini, and I both agreed that any changes should be reflected in an amendment to the Courthouse Square lease. So I have drawn up an amendment. I have sent it to Morganton. They're still reviewing it. So tonight, what we would ask is that you approve the amendment and authorize the county manager and county attorney to make any negotiated changes with Morganton and to allow the county manager to sign the amendment. And I think all of you have a copy of the proposed amendment at your place.
All right, questions or comments for James Reed?
Mr. Chairman, I did not hear everything that JR said. When he turns, his voice gets real low. But I'm trying to understand, number one, I got this and read it, and since I had nothing to compare it to, what is the need to, see, we got that on what, a 25-year lease?
They're leasing the property for 25 years with a 15-year renewal at their option.
How many years into that last 25 years?
I believe it's a 2008.
It's 2008.
2008, so
Okay.
it would be
So we
12 years into it.
Now, I'm not speaking for anybody except Maynard because I've been on the board, and we've had that discussion, I don't know how many times, about how to get rid of the ugly eyesore out there. So we're changing. We don't want them to do it, or you're trying. What is the objective to changing or having an amendment? Is it for insurance purposes, and we're that far into the lease? I'd like a little expanded information on that, if I could.
Well, the lease doesn't speak to whether the City of Morganton has the ability to make the changes that they've asked to make without the county's approval. So this amendment would
Get closer to your mic.
This amendment would give the approval for the grading, the removal of trees, the replacing of sidewalks, and the installation of the steps. It also ensures that because we have approved these new features, that we won't be liable for anyone who gets hurt on them. We also state that we agree to be responsible for up to $10,000 on the repair of the rock wall, but that this contribution would end the county's obligation to participate in repairs to the rock wall in the future. We ask them to warrant to us that they have complied with all the historic property federal statutes and guidelines, as well as the state statutes and guidelines, since the county courthouse is a local landmark. We make it clear that maintenance of any of these changes will be the sole responsibility of the City of Morganton, and also that any repairs would be their sole responsibility. And they will hold us harmless for any damages or for any injuries.
I guess the next question I should ask, has Morganton approved and are in agreement with it?
We have, I have prepared this and given it to the City of Morganton. They will be voting at their August meeting. I talked with Louis Vinay this afternoon, and he said there were some minor changes that they would like to have. So that's the reason that I asked for authority of the county manager and the county attorney to be able to negotiate that with them.
Well, Jay, I apologize because I am working you much more than I intended to. I guess what I really would like is the reasoning for asking a change in midstream and a bullet point 1, 2, 3 of the changes that we're making. Does that make sense to you?
Right. Well, in 2008, the city of Morganton did not have any plans for the development of the end of the courthouse square that the city owns, which consists of the old jail and a small brick office building that has since been torn down. They own those properties outright. So their changes would affect both their property as well as the county's property. And the original lease doesn't speak to that, whether they have the right to do that or not. So we agreed that it would be in the best interest of both parties to spell it out in an amendment, that they do have the right to build the steps that they have shown us and that's attached to Exhibit A, that they do have the right to do grading work, they do have the right to remove trees, and they do have the right to move or replace sidewalks.
Folks, I'm not being rude. I'm trying to pass kidney stones, and it's not a pleasure, to say the least. Mr. Chairman, I think that answers my questions. I didn't want to mess up a good thing unless, if it's mandatory that we change insurance covers mandated by state or law. I understand that. So at this point, I'll try to quit hurting and shut up.
Sorry you're hurting.
Mr. Chairman, on the rock wall, do we get bids on that, or it's a $20,000 pop? How they handle that? I don't know if we have to or not. Or
We were presented, the current lease says if it's anything over $5,000, that we have to split it, but we were told by Morganton that they had a reputable company come and examine that wall, and that's the price that was given them to fix that wall. So under the current lease, we would be responsible for half of it. I'm comfortable with everything that I saw the other day. The stairs are encroaching on county property, which is fine. That was one of the reasons to renew the lease, is to make sure that we're indemnified if somebody did get hurt while they were on that property. That's the main reason to redo that. So time is of the essence. Mr. Blonsky has to work with several companies, and I think she has a June date that some paperwork has to be in, and that's the reason we put it on as tonight, so we can move as expeditiously as we can. And then for some minor details that might have to be worked out to give the attorney and the county manager the authority to do that. We support Morganton in their desire to put that amphitheater down there and do what they want to do on that square. I've supported it from day one. It just happened to be that the time caught up with us before we were able to see exactly where the property lines. And that was the company that the city had hired, gave the final report to the city of where those lines would be, and that's the reason it got to this point and unfortunately to this time frame. Any other questions or comments from anybody?
Just a comment and a question. I do appreciate the city working with us and answering our questions. So that my questions were answered. There's one that I did not answer because I had somebody ask me this. Because the designs we've seen, I have no problem with. They laid out where it's staked out. We got to look and see where everything is. It's not encroaching on us, the stage or anything like that. Comfortable with that. Wall maintenance, they're still, that's a little nebulous because we don't have an exact price, but we're going to have wall maintenance anyway, so I can understand that because that's in the old lease agreement. So we'd have that regardless at this point. And then, some of the other plans we've looked at, I don't have a problem with. I guess my only question is, and I forgot to ask this, JR, is this just give them carte blanche on anything they want to do, or if there's something on there that we say, hey, we're not really comfortable with that. what recourse do we have if that were to happen?
Well, that's one reason to have an amendment, is to spell out what they can do, because if we did it without an amendment, they could reasonably assume that anything they want to do on the courthouse square, they can do. So by approaching it positively, by having an amendment to the lease, we spell out what they're doing and that we approve it. So in the future, they would need to come to us before they put any buildings or anything of that nature on the property.
And that was my assumption. We've agreed to this fairly narrow scope at this point, but if there would be something else, because there can't be something permanently removed, because we may get asked this, there can't be something permanently put on that property, because we still retain the rights to that property and own that property, bottom line, correct?
Correct.
Just wanted clarity on that.
Well, if you see how the, for example, the KIA statute has worked, that's been something that both boards have considered and approved. So we now have a public record that says the county needs to approve it and the city needs to approve it. So we want to do the same thing with this amendment for the changes that Morganton wants to make under their 2030 plan, or whatever it is they call that.
And that's the way it read to me. I just want anybody that may be watching or reads this in the News Herald understands what we're talking about, because we're walking hand in hand, step by step with the city on this. And so we know what's going on at all levels. And like I said, I appreciate the city including us and keeping us up to date.
Any other comments? And again, would encourage our brothers and sisters over at the city to make sure that Killed in Action monument is placed in a place. I will put it that way. All right, hearing no other questions or comments, Mr. Vice Chair, you want to make a motion?
Yes. Mr. Chairman, I'm a vote to approve. Move to approve the amendment to lease agreement between Burke County and the city of Morganton and authorize the chairman to execute the lease amendment on behalf of the board.
All right, you've heard the motion. All in favor? Excuse me. Time out. And the attorney.
The suggested motion prepared in your notes, I think, is a little different than what the county attorney read for you.
Right, that you would give the county attorney and the county manager and the county attorney the authority to negotiate details of the amendment if Morganton has questions or has concerns, and then for the county manager to be able to sign the agreement.
All right, before you make that motion, Commissioner Brett.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to suggest we also add that the chair and vice chair be part of that negotiation and at least know what's happening there, and then find with the county manager's signature.
Any problem with that, JR?
No, sir, not at all.
Whoop her out again, son.
Well, I'm not sure I can get all that in there, so maybe Ms. Kay can tell me exactly what my motion needs to be, because it's
Let the county attorney do it.
okay.
The motion would be to approve the agreement and authorize the chair, vice chair, county manager, and county attorney to negotiate any details with the city of Morganton, and to allow the county manager to sign the agreement that gets negotiated.
Okay. So to approve the amendment to the lease agreement between Burke County and the city of Morgan, and authorize the chair and vice chair to execute lease amendment along with the county attorney and the county manager, and to negotiate any details that may be changed, and to authorize the
That's close.
county manager to
Execute the agreement on behalf of the county.
contract on behalf of the county. There we go.
Maynard.
Yes, I just thought of a very important question. This is a two-sided coin, JR. What if the town of Morganton, city of Morganton, doesn't agree with your resolution? What happens?
Well, if the changes are something that we can work out, or the disagreements are something we can work out, then that's what this four-man group would do. If the parties can't work something out, then it would be my position that they can't go forward with changes to the county property, and the parties would have to decide that in court, I guess.
But it is true, for a resolution to work between two parties to operate, both have to be in agreement, correct? Both have to sign off on the resolution.
That's right. Both parties have to sign.
That's good. Thank you.
All right, we've heard the motion and we're ready to vote. All in favor signify by raising the right hand. That will be 5-0, Madam Clerk. Okay, let's move to our reports and comments section. I believe I'll start over to the right with Commissioner Abley. Okay. Maynard?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make it really short for you
Okay.
today. God bless America, God bless newborn babies, God bless all county commissioners, and God bless everybody who will have, or has kidney stones.
Commissioner Britton? Vice Chair?
I'm just glad I don't have to repeat that motion. That's all I have to say.
Mr. County
But no.
Attorney?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I do have a list of projects in which I've been involved since the last meeting of the Commissioners on May 19th. We've had budget meetings on May 22nd, 28th, and June 4th that I have attended. I have reviewed and signed off on Sheriff Wisneth's request for transfer of seized property. I have drafted a coronavirus relief funds agreement between the county and any qualifying municipality for use of relief funds that have been made available to the county. I've researched the courthouse square lease agreement, attended a meeting with Morganton and county officials on the premises, and prepared an amendment to the courthouse lease that was considered here tonight. I have researched a loitering issue that had concerned the sheriff and responded to his concerns. I've worked with Tom Ure of Blue Ridge Healthcare and Alice Adams of Robinson Bradshaw Law Firm to get before the board tonight the public hearing and proposed resolution for Blue Ridge to obtain tax-exempt status for its bonds that are being refinanced. I've completed agreement between the county and REACT to manage county emergency facilities at NCSD. I have reviewed and modified a proposed agreement with Specialized Consulting Services, LLC, to provide management services concerning the coronavirus relief funds. And I am in the process of researching, reviewing questions concerning the water tank project at the BDI Business Park, our grants, and the necessity of perhaps a new amendment reflecting the building and operation of the water tank. That's my report.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. County Manager, anything?
Yes, sir. Got some photographs to show you, to tell you that we did our final walkthrough of the Sallyport project. This is part of that. We resurfaced the back parking lot. This is some of the pictures we have of that. You keep going. The tidies up, and there's this striping for all the parking spaces in the rear parking lot. It goes with all the new construction. And then we came around to the side where the secure parking area was for the judges, and we show you that was before. That's the fencing and the gate. And then there should be some that was crack sealed and then seal coated and restriped to preserve the asphalt. And that's the parking area in front of the register of deeds in the courthouse. And I think just a second, we had to add a couple of spaces, new handicap parking spaces, because of the people that are coming to the courthouse, to make it accessible and easy for them. And then we've got from our Scott Carpenter and apparently his friends a sign that they're going to be moving forward with. Wolf Pit sign, and I need to go into that. We have Aaron Kostick was the master carver, donating design work and materials for construction, carving the sculpture and sign. Dean Kuffman, master blacksmith, is donating the killed white oak for the sculpture and sign, black forged feather, and transportation of the structure to the site. Isaac Hoff from Beanstalk Builders is donating black locust for the base and structure support. Burke County has within its budget $1,400 for supplies related to this. The sign will be approximately 9 feet tall and located at a soon-to-be-built trailhead at NC 126 and Wolf Pit Road. Expected to begin work and carving in August. And Scott tells me the estimated overall value of the sign is $7,000. So you're getting a lot of donated benefit to the county for this sign. That I wanted to show that to you. And I also wanted to mention to you that we may need to have a special called meeting possibly around the July pre-agenda regarding contracts for approval related to the COVID or use of COVID relief funds from the federal government. Just wanted to make you aware of that. We'll see how there's large chunks of this that go beyond the county manager's $90,000 authority for executing a contract.
Thank you, Ms. County Manager. Madam Clerk, any comments?
None for me, thank you.
Thank you very much. I just want several comments. I want to remind everybody in the county to fill out your census. We got a good census report today. Burke County has moved up some. We've moved up to 57.1%. Lance has done, Lance Riddle, our administrative assistant to Brian, has done a fantastic job. I was hoping we'd be up to 75%, but the state's not even there yet. So we did extremely well to get up to the 57% mark. I'd like to commend two towns, Rutherford College and Drexel. They both had a great increase in their census numbers. I hope we can continue to do that. And I'd like to remind everybody in Burke County, please don't litter. Please pick up some trash if you can. Please remember to have your pets spayed or neutered. And like us on Facebook if you can. Gentlemen, the last 2 or 3 Fridays I've been on Zoom meetings regarding our opioid lawsuit with the matter of negotiating a final settlement along with the Attorney General of North Carolina. I will go into a closed session meeting with you in the near future. Staff will be meeting with the Attorney General again this week. He made a proposal and the counties made a counter proposal of how we should settle and the monies that will be involved. So I will be meeting with you as soon as I hear something this week on that. And that is all I have. I don't think we have anything else in the reports. Madam Clerk, your vacancy announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We have the following opportunities for citizens to be involved in county boards or committees. We have the Adult Care and Nursing Home Community Advisory Committee, Council on Aging, Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, City of Morganton Planning Board and Board of Adjustment for the ETJ, Voluntary Agriculture Board, Burke County Board of Adjustment and Planning Board, Burke Senior Center Advisory Council, and the Recreation Commission.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. There is no need for a closed session tonight unless I have missed something. Therefore, we will entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor? That was 5-0, Madam Clerk. Thank you, gentlemen. All right. Get some red and black on that wool. Yes.